All right, welcome to the Snyder Report podcast. I am your host, Gary Snyder. Before we get to my guest today, I need to remind everybody about our sponsors. First of all, we need to thank Robin Winston. Robin has done a great job at helping us get our newsletter started, which now goes out to 100,000 daily subscribers across the state. And also former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson. Her newest book or latest book, I don't know how new it is, about a year maybe, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America. Also, make sure you go down, hit that subscribe button right below. We'll give you a free VIP subscription to the newsletter for the rest of the year. But my guest today, we're kind of switching gears a little bit. We usually talk politics here, but I'm a big Pacers fan. Pacers are getting ready to start their playoff run. I'd like to think championship run, but we'll see about that. Danny Bridges, he writes for the Indianapolis Recorder. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you, Gary, for having me. This is really cool for an old guy like me to be on a video.
Yeah, I used to be on the radio, and my wife would you have the perfect face for radio, and I'm like, well, thanks.
That would be two of us, but I'm just used to a phone in my ear. But I am very happy to join you today and to connect with your subscribers, your readers, your followers. And as I said, I just recently discovered the excellent work you're doing. I look at it through Facebook, actually, but okay. No, I'm happy to add whatever little bit I can to the program today.
Well, the Pacers are getting ready to kick off their playoff run tomorrow or Saturday, whenever you guys are watching this. So we'll just say Saturday. They take on a very familiar foe in the Milwaukee Bucks. And, as this series gets going, Pacers had a 50-win season. They come in as the number 4 seed. The Milwaukee Bucks is the number 5 seed. And they come in with this game, starting this series with a lot of bad blood between them.
Yeah, I guess you could call it a rivalry of sorts because obviously same division and certainly having played last year in the playoffs. But, I would like to think that the Pacer fans who are starving for this team to advance again, and I say again because obviously last year's run, which I put an asterisk beside that, I do believe they had the good fortune of running into some teams that weren't 100% health-wise. Now, Mathurin was out the entire playoff for the Pacers last year, so it's not as if they were 100% either. But as it pertains to the matter at hand currently, Giannis is healthy. Damian Lillard will not play in game 1. I don't know if he'll play in game 2 or not. He's been out a month with a blood clot in his leg, having to take prescription medication to dissolve and resolve that. So he's their biggest perimeter threat. So, look, I think it just boils down to two things for the Pacers. But before I say that, I don't believe that you just turn a switch on in the playoffs. I think what you do in the regular season says a lot about what you are. And this team has had difficulty rebounding the basketball and defending without fouling. And, they've got a Hall of Fame coach in Rick Carlisle, Hall of Fame to be president of the NBA Basketball Coaches Association. His work speaks for itself, but you can't expect any coach to work miracles. And I say that, tongue in cheek, but what it boils down to is, can they hold their own on the boards, and can they defend without fouling? And, look, this last month and a half, they've had some really bright spots. Haliburton has returned to form. He's had some injuries, but bottom line is he's looked really, really good. They have Myles Turner, who's an enigma in my book in terms of why he can't consistently rebound the basketball to get back to rebounding again. There's an interesting stat. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's a profound difference. When he pulls 10 boards a night down, they're hard to beat. They really are. Now, usually it's rebound by committee, and if he grabs 10, your next guy's probably got 6 or 7, what have you. And there's a number of guys that can do that. They're going to have to rebound by committee because they're not a really good team you can point to of having a great rebounder. There's no Dennis Rodman on the Pacers roster. There's nobody that's going to go out and get a guaranteed 14 or 15 rebounds a night. That's the two biggest keys to me. But I think I should say that the three big keys is the home court advantage. This is huge for the Pacers. They have a very loyal following. They have a very loud following. I don't know if you've been to a game recently or not, but if you get in that building and things are going their way, the fans are just unbelievable. They are beyond the sixth man. They're the sixth, seventh, and eighth man. They're really
They are.
loud. They're really loud in there. And it's just important for them to get off to a good start in game one, get the crowd involved, and they have got to take care of business at home because I don't think you want to go to Milwaukee, even tied 1-1. I think you need to go up there 2-0. And from that point, focus on closing it out.
Do the Pacers go as far as they can improve their rebounding in this, not only series, but the playoffs in general?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, they've got a great team. They've got a bench that's been productive this year as well. In my opinion, their philosophy is we want to run, run, run. We want to shoot threes. And that's proven to be a good formula in today's NBA, but you've got to rebound the basketball and you've got to be able to defend without fouling. In the playoffs, it becomes more of a half-court set. Sure, you're going to see some running up and down the floor, but you're also going to see half-court sets where plays are being called out, the pick and roll. There's a lot of things that change in the playoffs from my perspective. I've been watching basketball way too long. I'm just going to say, I'm not going to tell you how old I am. Way too long. And, you're talking to a guy who'll watch two bottom feeders play from the West Coast at 10:30 at night on a Tuesday. So I've seen enough basketball to know two or three things, and I've been around enough people who know a lot more about it than I do. These half-court sets are important in the playoffs. Defense without fouling is obviously key, but the other team can't run with the ball and do their thing if you've got the ball in your hands. So got to rebound. They cannot have these situations where the opposition, in this case Milwaukee, gets 1, 2, even 3 rebounds on a possession under the basket. You just cannot give that team that many good shots. I think the Lillard thing is a thing to watch. I don't know how effective he'll be. He's been out a month. I would have to think he's been shooting, trying to keep his shot, going.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is rebounding and defense.
Does Milwaukee, as the Pacers on defense, is Giannis going to get his 30, 35 points, and then you concentrate on the other 4 on the floor?
Well, that's one theory, but they've got some other guys that can hurt you. I don't know what Lillard's role is going to be, but Bobby Portis Jr. is a player for them. There's a guy out of Notre Dame. You're a Notre Dame fan.
I am.
How do we pronounce Pat's last name? Can you help me on that? Is it Hautagan, I believe it is?
I'm more football than basketballs.
Yeah, they've got some guys that can contribute. Again, they're going to have to do offense by committee to some degree. They don't have Chris Middleton, obviously. Lillard is questionable. He's not going to play in game one. They've already made that declaration. So I think Kevin Porter Jr. is a guy to keep an eye on for the Bucks. He can be disruptive, and that's a guy that they're going to have to keep in there. But Kyle Kuzma is a big acquisition for them at the trade deadline. And can he play like he's capable of? If he does, that's a big problem for the Pacers. And we talked about Rick Carlisle earlier. Well, look, there's a Hall of Fame counterpart on the other bench. Doc Rivers is as good a coach as there is in the NBA. He's seen it all. He's done it all. And I think when you have two coaches that experienced, that talented, the matchups become more interesting in terms of what they try to take away from each other. But no, I'm looking forward to the series. I think the Pacers are going to win this series, but I think it's going to be a really tough test for them. At least a 4-2 series, at least going to go 6 games, maybe 7.
Well, and I've put this in the newsletter, and a lot of people know we need it to go at least 5 because my son is playing the national anthem for game 5.
Well,
so we don't need a sweep
I think
here.
you're going to be okay with that. But realistically, this will be a bit of a dogfight. I mean, when he's healthy, and he is currently, I think Giannis is the best all-around player in the National Basketball Association. Now, there's people in Denver that will tell you the Joker is the best center in the game, and he is an incredible player. But
SGA down in Oklahoma City is
those are all
wow.
Those are all great references. But the way Giannis can get to the basket consistently just is it's just so hard to defend. And when he's in the rhythm and his teammates are playing off of him, they're a much better basketball team than I think their record denotes. I mean, they were, they finished close to where the Pacers did. You could say they're the same brethren in that sense, but I just cannot begin to think that you just can't guard Giannis and try to minimize the damage there and ignore his teammates, because they're good enough. There's a number of guys on this team still that were on that NBA championship squad for Milwaukee. And, I think they're a dangerous opponent. I would be surprised if the Pacers don't win this round, though.
When you take a look at this series, is there a team, the Pacers or the Bucks, that you think come in with the momentum? Because as we know, momentum is everything in sports.
Well, so many times this year, the Pacers, in my opinion, lost a game or two here or there they should have won. And then maybe they surprised me and won a game or two that they should not have. I didn't think they could win or would win, especially when you talk about playing on the road. I think there's enough veterans in Milwaukee to not get caught up in the moment about, hey, who's got the momentum, who doesn't. Momentum is an interesting phrase. I mean, I believe in it to some degree, but there's also days between games. You don't play more than once a day, and there's days in between those games. So I'm not really sure that that's a big factor. Maybe Indiana has a little bit more momentum, perhaps, but they started awfully slowly this year, and they finally got it together. And after the All-Star break, they were a different team. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched, but I'll give Indiana's bench a little bit of an edge there. And again, I think the Pacers can win this thing in 6 games.
Well, when we take a look at the Pacers, we have the big three: Myles, Turner, Haliburton. Who else should we watch outside of the big three on the Pacers that may be key to this series?
Well, I think Obi Toppin has been an incredible addition to this team, and in the
He's been
last
on fire.
45 days, yeah, in the last month and a half. I don't know if he's missed a 3-pointer. Now that's an exaggeration, but he's shown a nice touch from out there. He's very active. I'm not someone who disregards the fact that you have to have a certain level of athletic talent to be successful in the NBA. TJ McConnell is not the most athletic guy. He's certainly not the quickest guy. He's not going to kill you with a 3-point shot, but he's kind of like a dog that bites you on your ankle and won't let go of you. I know that's a weird analogy, but the bottom line is he's played better this year than I thought he would, even though he had a very respectable season last year. There's something about him. His motor's always running. He has hustle play written all over him. He's not the best defender in the world, but he does so many other things well on a consistent basis that he's become part of their rotation and has been for some time. So I think he has to be his normal self along with Toppin as far as that second unit is concerned.
How important is it for the Pacers not to lose their cool in this game? Don't get the
Well,
technicals, not get
composure
the
is a big
ejection.
factor in any type of sport, especially at the professional level, but even collegiately. Heck, you could probably talk about that at the high school level as well. But I think the big thing for the Pacers is not to get in a hole. And when you've got a team down and you've got your foot on their throat, smash them. I know that sounds a bit graphic, but you get my point in that analogy.
Right.
You can't allow teams who have premier players like Giannis and other good players as well around him to simply get back in the game. If you're up 15, I realize a 10, 15-point lead in the NBA evaporates pretty quickly, but you've just got to stay on top of the situation. And I talk about, defending without fouling. I watched a game the other night a play-in game between Golden State and Memphis. And you can say what you want about the Jimmy Butler situation, and people say, oh, he's this, he's that, he's a head case, and you can't do this, you can't count on him for this. Well, I know this. Jimmy Butler gets to the foul line, and he gets a lot of free throws, and he's
Right.
hard to defend as he's driving. So you cannot allow a team to slash. You cannot allow a team to get inside upon you. People talk about Myles Turner protecting the rim. I'll give him that. But collectively, the Pacers defensively and in the pivot as well have not been strong this year. So again, at the risk of redundancy, rebounding, defending without fouling are the keys. But you talk about momentum, you're right. That does have some play in it. But look, these are all grown men. These are some young guys, but they're all grown men. They know what's at stake. And I just think the crowd is a big factor for the Pacers. And they could come out Saturday and make a statement. It's going to be hard for Milwaukee to pick up game 2. Not impossible, but difficult.
How far can you see the Pacers going this year?
I'd say a couple rounds. I don't think that they're a team that you're going to see in the Eastern Conference Finals. I still think Cleveland and Boston are the two that it's going to come down to. But that's why these things are. We get surprised every year in the playoffs by a team or maybe a certain player. The Knicks are a real. They're a they're an enigma of sorts. There are times they look so good, and there are times they look so bad. So that inconsistency, they've had some injuries as well. They're well coached. They're a defensive minded team. I wouldn't mind seeing the Pacers and the Knicks play again, to be quite honest, with both sides totally healthy. The Knicks have got some changes in their roster, obviously. But no, that would be a good matchup for them, I think, as far as if everybody, all hands on deck and everyone's healthy. But I think they've got the ability to win 2 rounds. I don't see them as a Eastern Conference, threat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take everything away from them last year. I talked earlier about things worked out really well for them in terms of the opposition having injury problems. That's part of the game. Again, they didn't have Mathurin last year at all in the playoffs, so
Right.
it'll be interesting to see. But I don't believe they're a legitimate threat to win the Eastern Conference. To answer your question.
So as we sit here on the eve of the playoffs getting started, I mean, we've had the playoff games. Who are your picks for the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, and who do you have winning it?
Well, I don't think you can discount the champion, until somebody beats Boston, and I think Cleveland's the only team that can do that. Then you have to look at the Celtics as the favorite to win everything, not just the Eastern Conference. Out west,
Okay.
Oklahoma City has just ran off with that conference, and they've been a lot of fun to watch. I said before I like to watch some West Coast basketball, and I've watched them play quite a bit this year. And Holmgren
Okay.
is back for them. They've got a lot of guys you haven't heard of. I don't mean you personally, but me as well, the entire NBA fandom. But they're legitimate. And I think that they're going to win the West. I really do. I don't think the only team that I think could even beat them is Denver, and I think they're in disarray right now. I think the late firing of Mike Malone and their general manager that late in the season was just turns things upside down. Now, can they regroup as a team? Possibly, but I think Denver's the only team that has the personnel to beat Oklahoma City. But I think the favorites have to be the conference champions. Now you can say, hey, what Cleveland's a conference champion. Well, look, regular season per se. I don't. Cleveland and Boston will be a great series. I'll look forward to watching that if indeed it does come out that way. But I just can't imagine anybody but Cleveland, Boston, and Denver and Oklahoma City. You asked for a pick. I'm going to go with the defending champions to win it again.
Okay. All right. Before we let you go here, we do need to remind everyone again of our sponsors. Robin Winston has been a great sponsor of both the newsletter, which now goes out to over 100,000 daily across the state of Indiana, and also Jill Long Thompson, her newest book. Let me pull it back up. Across the Aisle: Why Bipartisanship Works for America. Danny, real quick, where can people find your work?
Well, the Indianapolis Recorder has been kind enough to keep me around for years as a columnist, and I'm deeply indebted to Robert and Kamika and the entire staff there. I don't participate a whole lot on social media, so my columns will be there on the website, and
Okay.
every the print edition is released on Thursday. It's a weekly. But before I go, and I want to thank you for the opportunity today, I want to say to you and your listeners that I was not aware of your page and
Okay.
your service that you provide. And I'm impressed with the fact that, you have been, from what I can read, and I did some research yesterday, you've been vocal about the political climate in our country. And I salute you for that. I hope you will continue to speak up and to talk about what you feel is unjust. This is a sports segment, not a political segment, so I'll cap it right there. But I appreciate your political acumen. I appreciate your position. Our policies and our thoughts and our opinions about politics align closely, and I hope that you and yours will continue to speak up when you see things that we both know are not right.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and thank you for your time. Again, I'm Gary Snyder. He is not. He is Danny Bridges from the Indianapolis Recorder. This is the Snyder Report podcast, and we are out.
Thank you, Gary.